Hello YouTube, this is XOR Hacks. Today we will be doing Beep, which is an easy Linux box on HackTheBox and also on the OSCP-like boxes list by tJNL and TCM, the Cyber Mentor. While there are multiple ways to exploit the box, I will be showcasing two of them, which require the least time and effort, and we won't need to find extra tools to install on our Kali Linux machine. As this is an OSCP-like boxes series, we are focused on doing the boxes more efficiently and fast. So without further ado, let's get started. So let's get started with the basic Nmap port scan. Nmap is C for default scripts, SV for version enumeration, ON for a normal output. I would save it in a directory called Nmap and name the output as beep. And the IP address of the box 10.10.10.7 and TAC VV for a verbose output. I ran this scan before because it does take some while. Over here we can see that we find a ton of stuff. First we can see port 22, which has SSH. We even find SMTP, which is on port 25, HTTP on 80. We see a lot of other ports like POP3, IMAP, RPC bind, and on 443 we can see that there is something, which is HTTPS. So when we see 443, it is usually HTTPS. Port 80 is HTTP, but it's not necessary, it can be on other ports too. But usually what these protocols map up to. So even here we can see on port 10,000 there is HTTP, which also proves what I just said. So let's just go and check out what's there on port 80. As we visit the page, we get Elastix. So not sure what this is. So let me just enter admin. And I don't really get anything. So admin root. And that was useless. I can go through the source code, but there isn't really much over here. So I'll use searchsploit. Over here we can see that we find a lot of stuff and free PBX too. But what's of interest over here is this LFI, local file inclusion. So let's view it first. TAC X to just examine it. And over here we can see Elastix is prone to local file inclusion vulnerability because it fails to properly sanitize user supplied input. A lot of vulnerabilities do that. So let's see, this is the LFI exploit that the code is for. So let me just copy this and add it over here. We can't really read it like this. So let's view the source. Over here we get it in a format that we can actually read it. This is a conf file. Often what's actually happening over here is that it's trying to render it as HTML and show it to us, but as it is not HTML, we get something like this. Just to read it as a file, it's better to go into the source code. So over here we can see this information. This is useful, and over here we can actually see pass. So these are passwords and usernames. We should save this stuff. But over here we can notice that there's a hash in front of a few of them. Hash just signifies that these things have been commented out. And at some config files, hash just means that these features are not enabled. Over here we can just say they are commented out. And we can see that localhost and MySQL are not. But what we see again and again is this. Let me just copy it and put in a file over here. Now another thing we noticed is that we did find a login over here. Let me just go back. And let's do admin and copy this and enter. And this does work. Over here we can see that there are a lot of options. Now, usually what happens is you'll find a new software or any service running over here, and it will take you some time to figure it out what's actually doing. So as this is an OSCP like video, we are going to figure out other ways, what other things we should do when we find something like this. So let's go to the terminal, we clear this. Over here we did see that we found other services, SSH and another HTTP service. So usually what I would do is, if I find something like we found through the LFI, different users and passwords, I would just try to brute force SSH. It most of the times will not work, but it just might at times. Example, this box, right? SSH, so root @ the IP address of the box, and we press enter. But we get this, unable to negotiate with the target box on port 22, no matching key exchange method found. Essentially what this is saying is that the version of SSH the target beep is running is really old, due to which our machine might not be able to negotiate a connection with the target. There's actually a way around this. This usually happens on really old boxes. So at times on platforms like HTB, there are really old boxes. As this, I think this box is from 2019, so you might find older services. What we can do is man SSH. This is the manual page, which you should always rely on. Over here there is an option O. So what we need to do is we need this. Let me copy this and open it here. So SSH, I'll just enter this again so I get the error, and I'll paste this here, is equal to and plus. The plus sign is important. So now any of these you can paste over here, and do note that there's a separator over here if you're actually going to try to automate this and somehow. So this comma, you can try it through this. Wait, just let me, yeah, and I'll press enter. Wait, I don't think this will be an issue, but this does look neat. I do get asked. Let me copy the password again, pasted it. For copying and pasting through your terminal, on your terminal, you can just do Ctrl+Shift+C and Ctrl+Shift+V. So now who are we in as? Root. This would literally be the fastest route ever on HackTheBox. So, but there's actually another way to do the box. Let's close this, and in the command I did use over here, you can actually use any of these particular options you have. So this you might not see as frequently, but this is something important which you might have to do when you're pen testing old systems. So let me close this and this. Now let me start burp suit. Let me close this, next, start, and let's go here. So now we did see something on port 10,000 over here. This is also HTTP and is running service webmin. So first let me set up the scope. Actually, let me show you what happens if you don't set up the scope. So if I don't set up my scope, let me and 10,000. Sorry, I do need to divert all my traffic there. Well, it is running on SSL, so I need to go to HTTPS instead, and we get a warning. Just accept and continue. We get login to webmin. Now in my burp I just want this, and in the history we can see we are constantly getting, well, we aren't right now, but when you have something like HTTP running in the background, usually HTTP is sending out a lot of API requests to their own servers. So I search for Google, I get a ton of stuff over here. You can see APIs and all. This is something that really clutters our workflow. So the best thing to do is I can copy this, go to targets. Usually this is what you will see, and go to scope. Here in include and scope, just add this, and okay, you'll get a pop-up telling you that if you press yes, everything which is not in scope will be removed from the history. You can actually get it back later if you are interested in that. Wait, here. So as I did that, everything else went away and only the item that was in scope stayed. There are actually things that you can add multiple items that are in scope, but over here we just need this. So let me see if I type root and routing. I see session underscore login.cgi, and if you remember in an old video for Shocker, I did show you how to exploit shell shock, and we can see here shell shock is a vulnerability that I have already exploited and explained in a previous video, so I'll just add the link to that video in the description. Essentially over here we are going to be adding a payload here, so let me just send it to repeater over here. Now we do need shell shock, so let's just search shell shock exploit, and I think this is the GitHub post we used in the last one too. Yes, we did. Essentially what we need is just this part right now. I'll copy this, and we need to add this in the user agent, because the CGI script is going to be run via bash, and we are going to get command execution now. So, but we do need a reverse shell. So pentest monkey, that's literally the first result. I'm not sure if people do use pentest monkey for anything else other than reverse shells. So I do need my own IP address, which is 10.10.14.4, and let's do this here. 10, 14 and 4. So let me do 1, 2, 3, 4 for the port number, and before I actually run it, let me start a listener, and let's press send, and we do get a connection back, which is quite quick, and we can see over here too we are root, but still, who am I? Root. We can confirm it through ID too. Another way to actually get on the box is via SMTP, but I'm going to be skipping that right now because in one of the future videos I will be using that to get a reverse shell on another box. But for more information, I would highly recommend you try to get a shell via exploiting just Elastix. There's an other way to do it just here, which you can actually try it out yourself. And I'll be adding some information about Shocker in the description of the video. Thank you for watching the video. Please like and subscribe. Thank you.